Hi everyone, welcome to It's All Light. I'm your host, Natalie Baugh, and today's episode is my friend, Shelby Kinghorn.
Hi everybody, it's great to be here.
Shelby is awesome, and she is one of the kindest people I know. She always texts me out of the blue, even though we probably haven't seen each other in like at least 2, maybe 3 years, right? But she
Yeah,
texts me,
I think so.
and she's like, how are you doing? I'm thinking of you. I love you. And I'm like, you are the kindest person ever. And it's been fun. We've stayed in touch with each other's lives. And today we get to hear a little bit about Shelby and her life. So let's just start there. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how we met.
Well, I grew up in several different states, but the last place that I lived before I came to Utah was Washington. Came out to Utah to go to BYU, and we met in the public relations program at BYU, which was such a good time, really. Lots of like late night projects and lots of procrastinating and doing things at the last minute. It was a good time.
It was a good time.
Since then, I graduated during COVID, which was
2020.
quite the experience for all of us. We all struggled to find jobs and to just do anything when the world like stopped. But eventually found a job, worked doing some, it was like office management / marketing.
Yeah, I remember that.
For a little while, and just, I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I loved what I had learned in school and the stuff that I had done there, but oh yeah, it was so great. And there were lots of things about like marketing and stuff that I did like, but that company just it wasn't a great fit. And so I looked for a new job for a long time. Got a couple good job offers at places doing that included a lot more like event planning and more hands-on stuff, which was a lot of what I had been looking for. And this is where my story gets even more interesting, because I got a few good job offers and I turned them all down. Like it didn't feel right. I didn't feel good about any of them, and there wasn't like a specific reason that I could put behind it, but I was like, I just, I can't take this job. It doesn't feel right. Even when they like came back and were like, oh, we'll offer you more money or this, I'm like, I can't take it.
Just because it didn't feel right.
Yeah, it didn't feel right.
We're going to talk about that later, about following our feelings. So I love that.
And so I was like a hot mess because I was like, I am in this job that I don't like, and I have these other job offers, and I am not taking them. And I like, what am I even supposed to do? And I remember calling up my brother, who was at BYU at the time. He was like a freshman, cute little 18-year-old baby. And I was like, hey, can you give me a blessing? This adorable child of a brother who had never given anybody a blessing. He was probably so nervous, but he was like, yeah, I could totally do that. Okay. So I go down to Provo and have him give me a blessing. And I think I freaked him out because I was like crying, and I was like, he was like, what is happening? Like, why is she so upset? And so he gives me the blessing, and we're just kind of like sitting there hanging out for a little bit. And I'm driving home, and I remember thinking, wow, I miss when I was in school. Life was just, so much easier than I was learning, and that was fun, and that was great, and I got to experience new things, and that was awesome. And it was just, it wasn't like I had to have my life all figured out, because I could just do something. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should go back to school. That could be a good idea. I could get a master's degree. I could go to law school. Law school would be cool.
And this was like a year or two after graduation, right? It was like 2022?
Yeah, it was 2021.
Oh, okay.
2021, yeah. It was the end. It was like November of 2021.
Okay.
And I had that thought, and I was like, okay, school could be fun. And I'd always thought about, maybe going to law school or getting a master's degree. And all of a sudden, I'm like sitting at home, and all of a sudden, I was like, I had the thought, I should go to nursing school.
It was just a thought.
It was just a thought. I should go to nursing school. And I was like, what even is that? Like, that was not on my radar. Like, that is so out of the blue, but it was clear as day. Go to nursing school.
So to you, it was a spiritual prompting.
It 100% was a spiritual prompting. Like, I had been praying and asking what I should do and trying to figure it out. And 100%, it was go to nursing school. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to nursing school.
How did you not doubt that thought?
It was so clear. And it was the only thing that did not make me feel like I wanted to cry, because it didn't feel right. Like, it felt like the right thing to do. It felt good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And maybe I was just like to the point where I was like, I'm so done with not having an answer, because I've been trying to figure this out for so long, or who knows, but I just was like, you know what? This is not a thought that I would have come up with on my own. Like, nursing school is not something that I personally in my life
had ever thought about.
Oh, I should go do that. So I was like, this has got to be pure revelation from the Lord, because I would not have come up with this. And
I love that.
And so it really was no question. I was like, okay. And I started looking into schools and trying to figure it out. And I remember telling my parents, and they kind of thought I was crazy. They're like, okay, what? Like, you're gonna do what? I was like, no, I'm gonna go to nursing school. It's gonna be great. And I found a school, and I started, so that was in November, and I started nursing school in May.
Wow. How did you do prerequisites and stuff?
I found a program that didn't require any. They had a program that it included, like, the anatomy and physiology and stuff was included and all of that. And it was an accelerated bachelor's program. So it applied credits from the degree I already had. So that way I could do, like, it's just under 2 years of school, and graduate with a bachelor's degree instead of just an associate's, which was good, because I don't know that I could have actually gone through with it if I had to do 4 more years of school.
What was this school and program?
It's called Joyce University. It's the accelerated bachelor's program that they have. It's like a tiny nursing college in Draper. And it mostly has nursing, respiratory therapy, and occupational therapy, I think, is all that they do there. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
When you told me you were doing nursing school, I was like, I should just do it with her, because I literally, like, the medical field is, like, where I kind of want to end up. I just haven't figured out my path to get there. But I, like, love talking to everyone who's a nurse, because I'm like, could I do that? But I'm like, oh, maybe mine's a little different. But I love hearing your story. And that leads us into the next question. What do you light up about, Shelby?
Oh, so many things. But honestly, now nursing is one of the big things that I do light up about. Like, I really enjoy it. There are a lot of hard things about it. Mm-hmm. It's a difficult career. Changing careers is difficult. Like, the schedule is hard. There are lots of hard things, but it's so cool.
I bet it's so rewarding too.
It's so cool, and I learning all the stuff was just so cool, and I loved every minute. I was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all hate homework, especially like discussion boards and things like that. But but it was so cool to get to learn like about the body and learn about
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. It was so fascinating, and I enjoyed it so much. And then getting to like put that into practice, and the medical field is fascinating because it's like a whole entire other language that you learn pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I see examples of it all the time. People are like, "Here, read this sentence and tell me what it means," and they have no idea. They're like, we use so many acronyms and Latin words and just all these crazy things. And I'm like, oh, I know what that means. Like, I understand what you're saying and why that's significant, you know?
That's so
And
cool.
it's
Now
just
I'm
so
like,
cool.
shoot, do I need to go to nursing school? This sounds awesome.
It's great. Just do it. It's so fun.
I love it.
But I really had like no experience in the medical field before. I almost never even went to the hospital. Like, never been super sick.
Yeah.
My mom has cancer, but even then it wasn't like I had lots of firsthand exposure to anything in the medical field. Just, what I saw in her day-to-day life at home. It was never like going to appointments. None of that. I had so little exposure. And so it was really like the brave new world out here, going into the hospitals and trying to figure out how everything worked and what was happening.
And now you work in oncology, right?
I do. Yep. I work at the cancer hospital.
I only know what oncology is because I watched New Amsterdam. I watched too many dumb shows, but
medical dramas are great, highly inaccurate, but so fun to watch.
Yeah, good to know. Before we dive a little bit more into this, I wanted to mention you said you love chocolate cake, and that's one thing I've always known about you is that you are an incredible baker. And I don't know, just before we dive a little deeper, I wanted to throw that fun thing out for you.
I love to bake and cook. It's hard to do it for one person.
Yeah, I get that.
It just feels a lot less rewarding and or worth my time. Yeah. but it's so fun to do. Mm-hmm. It's always such a good time, and then you get a delicious meal or dessert at the end. So
I know, I admire it, but I just am not ever consistent. Like, I can't remember the last time I went to the grocery store and I'm like, okay, step by step. I'm so excited to dive a little bit deeper into the form you filled out. But before we do that, you also mentioned just some fun things you enjoy, just planning activities with friends, talking to people you haven't caught up with in a while, going on trips, and then, like you just said, cooking. So it sounds like you're well-rounded, and you get to work with people now. Like me knowing you, I know that's important to you. So that's really cool that nursing, I don't know, kind of fills all these cups for you, which I love hearing you talk about.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it is surprising how helpful things I learned in communications are, actually.
Woohoo,
like I don't necessarily write lots of papers, but like learning how to understand people and almost like translate what they're saying into a way that's more understandable for somebody else. I feel like we did that all the time. It was like, here, take all these articles and now write this press release that everybody can understand. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I do that all the time. They're like, the doctors will say something and the patients will be like, what are you saying to me right now? And we're like, okay, this is what,
and as a nurse, you can help break it down.
What we're saying.
Cool.
And so it's really cool to get to be a part of that and to use those skills.
Oh, I love that. It's really cool. You mentioned just like how rewarding it is to be as a nurse, and I'm sure every nurse listening to this will be like, oh yeah, 100%. And I know that comes with like hard, taxing days. But tell me more about that. What's that like?
It is truly an honor and a privilege to get to be a part of people's lives, even for the brief moment that we are there to like help them and care for them and mm-hmm. and serve them and do things for them that they can't necessarily do for themselves in that moment. Hmm. It's so interesting because I work doing inpatient, which means, you're sick enough that you need to stay at the hospital, right? You don't just get to go home after being there for an hour or two. So we see people kind of like at their worst, in their worst moments when they're sick and they can't do anything. And especially in oncology, like people are getting really hard, life-altering news that doesn't necessarily have a fix or a great answer. And the solutions are usually pretty taxing and painful and come with lots of side effects. And so it's so cool to get to kind of be a brief part of their journey, and just get to help them in such a kind of unique way, right? Because we're there and we help them and we care for them, but we're not necessarily like family. But it just really shows me that you can have an impact on people no matter what your relationship is to them, no matter where you come into their lives, right? Like all these things really do matter. And at any given time, you have an opportunity to show people that you care for them, which is just such a neat thing to be a part of.
Wow. And you show you care through your words, but also through your actions of just your tireless efforts in helping them.
Yeah. And there's different, I mean, it also is so inspiring, right? Because some of these people, they all have their bad days, which is, we don't blame them for that. Like, you have cancer, you're sick, you're in the hospital. Like, these things are hard and they kind of suck. And if you want to be angry, like, be angry, that's okay. Yeah. But we also get so many people who have so much hope and so much joy and laughter. And it is just so incredible to see, like, the resiliency of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Right? These people just are like, okay, this is what has happened. And we're still going to be in this moment and make the most of everything that we can. And I've also had experience with people passing on, right? Like we get patients who come to the end of their lives, and sometimes they go home and sometimes they stay at the hospital, and and you know, their family comes and people come, and if people can't come, we have people who will come, and it's sad and it's hard and it can be heartbreaking to watch, but it also is so special and such like a neat experience to get to see how, you know, death may not be the end, and maybe for some people, like, in that moment it's kind of a good thing and they don't have to suffer, and you really get to see like how at peace they get to become, which is kind of cool.
Wow. So you've been working as a full-time nurse for like 2 years.
I have been working as a full-time nurse for like 6 months.
Okay.
I graduated nursing school in December.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're in the oncology unit.
Yes. Yep. I do oncology, and I work with medical patients and surgical patients. So sometimes they come in and have surgeries to have like tumors removed or things like that. And sometimes they are just there for chemo, or because they got sick, or because their cancer is affecting some of their other organs, or they just different things like that.
Wow. So you mentioned just like there's always something to be learning in nursing, and that's like exciting for you, and you're putting a lot of energy into being a good nurse and learning as much as you can about the field. So since you've graduated, what kind of learning? I know there's tons on the job, but how do you continue to learn and push yourself to be the best nurse?
Well, let me start by saying going to nursing school was like drinking through a fire hose. Oh my gosh, there was so much I didn't know, and I definitely feel like we should teach anatomy in high school because people should learn this stuff. We all have a body.
Totally.
But even since then, so nursing school was was kind of broad, and it covered a lot of things very generally. And when we go into the field, sometimes we like specialize in specific things. Like I'm working in oncology specifically. So almost all of the patients that we have cancer. Where I have friends who work down at the University of Utah Hospital or Primary Children's or things like that, and they don't see cancer patients really ever. And so when I got the job there, there was a lot of cancer specific education that we did on, you know, what are common things that you see in people who have cancer? What are like specific treatments that we do? How does that all work? And so there was a lot of learning that went into that there. But then just in general, there was also so much that wasn't covered in nursing school that I've been learning, and people respond so differently to everything, and everybody's so different. So there's always something new to learn about how somebody's going to react, or what sort of side effects they have, or how that affects them, or, you know, how they respond, or how resilient. It's always so different, and there's so much to learn, and there's so many great people at the hospital who are so willing to like teach you and help you, and especially the other nurses, like they have just been phenomenal and sharing their wealth of knowledge. Like I ask questions a million times a day, and they answer them, and we all help each other out, and it really is so great. But also the medical field is always changing and growing, and they're always learning. Like there are new things being done all the time, and we see it a lot because at the Huntsman Cancer Hospital, that it's a research hospital, and they do so much cancer research there. And we have people on clinical trials all the time. And so they're always coming out with like new things to try, and new treatments, and something new they've learned about the body, or how to target this or fix that. And so there's always things to be learning. And part of nursing, and a lot of jobs in the medical field, is you have to do these continuing education credits that are required by the state. There's like so many that you have to do to keep up your license to be able to work. Which the whole idea behind that is there is so much that is changing and growing all the time, that we want you to kind of keep up with these things so you can learn, and we can be providing the most like up-to-date, best patient care possible. That's special. And so there are always so many opportunities to learn, and we always have classes, and they're always sending out information, and I just like, we have access to so much information that we can use to learn from, and it's just so cool to be a part of something that is constantly learning and growing so much.
I love that. Do you see yourself just continuing down being a nurse the next few years, and also progressing in other areas of your life?
I have no idea.
Good answer. You know, it's okay not knowing. I'm trying to lean into that. It's okay not knowing.
I don't know. There's lots of opportunities for me to like go on and do more schooling if I want to do that. There's also so many different kinds of nursing if I want to do that. There's so many things, and so I'm like, okay, we're gonna stop and take a minute here. And just learn how to be a nurse and enjoy this for a second. And if I want to go on, I can. If I don't want to go on in schooling, I don't have to. Like, there's still tons of opportunity for growth and learning.
Totally.
And so the short answer is I don't know. We will see.
That's awesome. What do you love about the body and our mind? And then the follow-up question, how to care for others? So that's kind of a threefold question, but like, what have you learned about the body? Like, learning about the body is cool because we have bodies.
There's so many things that I just like did not even know how the body actually functioned. And let me just tell you, the human body is a literal miracle. Like, I have learned about it, and I still have no idea how half of the things that happen actually happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, how does this is truly like a testament to God, because it is insane all of the things that go into like keeping us alive
Yeah.
consistently, and the body can take so much of a beating and still work. But also, just like when you know, throw a paperclip into a machine and it gets stuck, the same thing can happen to us as well. And it just blows my mind how intricate it is, but also how resilient it is.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a walking conundrum, but it's so cool to get to see like some of the different things and to learn exactly how some of the different body functions work, like how our intestines work and how that relates to your kidneys and how that relates to your heart and how that relates to your brain, and it's all connected. And it all affects each other, and it's just so wild to see.
I just have always found it fascinating learning about the body. Like, just there's so much. You can never stop learning. It's amazing.
It's so cool. And then going along with that,
yeah,
the mind, right? Like that's a whole nother thing, but it's connected as well, right? Like the mind body connection is really a real thing. It is 100% a real thing. And so that is so crazy to see as well. Like mind over matter can actually affect things, and people's mental health is such a big proponent in their physical health, and like seeing all of that working together is just, it's just so crazy and so cool, and also sometimes a little scary, because that's like a lot of stuff to have to, you know, be aware of and to learn and to try and make sure you're
really
keeping healthy and, you know, doing all the like that's a lot of stuff. But
they all like literally spin together. Like the days where I don't exercise or eat well or get enough sleep, like takes an entire toll on everything else. And then you can get sick, and then your immune system's weaker, and then it's just
yeah. And but also some days you have where your mind is like, I literally cannot do this, and your body just is like, okay, I have to comply because we just aren't in a place to do this. And it's so fascinating to see that like in action, and it has made me so much more aware of it in myself, which is good and bad. Mostly it's good, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I feel like I know too much, and now I'm overthinking everything, and it's okay.
Mind over matter. It's our minds are so powerful, it's crazy. When you mentioned the mind-body connection, I thought of like foot zoning. And then there's more extremes where it's like dentistry and like certain molars or certain parts of your body or something like that. I saw a diagram. So I know there's like deeper levels of all that, and there's probably truths to some of it, but I like to just stick with the basics.
You can't go wrong with the basics though.
All right. So I asked, why should others know about this? Tell us, Shelb.
One of the biggest things that I've taken away from this whole experience, that is my, 26 years of life, is it's never too late to try something new. In school, I was in a cohort. All of the people in my classes were in this accelerated bachelor's program with me.
In nursing
so
school.
we all had degrees, and we had all come and gone to nursing school. And some people had like public health or child development or physical science or, sports medicine or something like that. That was their background. And then they're like, okay, well, no, I've decided to do nursing. And super cool. But I also like had a friend who was a teacher for 13 years, and I had a friend who was an accountant for like 5 years, and we were all like, okay, we need to do nursing. And so we were all in nursing school together, and it was so cool, and it was so like reassuring to be around all these people who were like, okay, we want to make this change, and nursing is the change that we want to do. And it was so cool to see all these people be brave enough to be like, okay, I'm gonna start a whole new career and do something totally different, even though, like, for some people they had been doing something else for so long. Like, that's got to be scary. Or for me, I felt kind of ridiculous because I was like, I literally just graduated. Like, I just picked this career and now I'm doing something else. That's kind of crazy. But it's been such a great experience, hard and difficult, but great. And it just really was such a testament to me that try something new. If you feel like you want to do something different, do something different. You are never too old to try something new. You're never too old to learn something new. And keep learning and keep growing. Like, we don't ever have to stop doing that. Even if we're not in school, or heck, if we want to go back to school, we totally can, right? Like we don't need to place limits on ourselves. We can do all of these things. There is plenty of room for me to have 4 different careers if I would like.
I like that. That's a good mentality to have. Because, like, mind over matter, but mind over just what you want, what you put your mind to, you can do, right?
Well, and mind over matter, or mind over whatever social construct we have decided that we need to live in. We don't have to live in that. We can.
Yeah.
It's scary and it's hard, but it's so cool to get to just be like, okay, I actually can make these big changes, and it will be okay, and maybe it'll even be great.
Yeah, I mean, because it all goes toward our learning, and that's like the point of life, is to just continue to learn and grow. And we learn in, like, some jobs you learn every day, like nursing, or, like, I don't know, I feel like I learn something new every day too. And marketing is always changing, and you have to understand people, and then it's good to try to apply that to life. But I love that you said no one has to be locked into one thing forever. Learning is fun. And when you, like, follow your thoughts, you don't know where you'll end up, but it might be something that's meaningful, because your career is a big part of your life. You don't want to just have to begrudgingly do it, even though I'm sure there are some of those days, especially as a nurse.
We all have those days, and that's totally fair, but I can overall say I enjoy it, and that was not something that I said before, and so I really do appreciate the value in that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was nursing school?
Oh, it was so hard. It was probably like a 10.
Really? Wow.
It was so hard. But I made great friends, and I seriously do not think I've ever studied as much as I studied in nursing school.
That's amazing.
We studied so much, but it
paid off.
I made great friends, and we studied together, and we learned a lot, and
now you're applying it. You're using it.
Yes, and you know what? If I can do hard things, everybody else can also do hard things, because
let's go, Shelby.
We can all be nurses. We can't all be doctors, but that's mostly because I have no interest in being a doctor. That does not sound fun to me.
See, part of me, I get trapped in thinking, well, I just want to go to med school or go to nursing school just to prove that I can do it and that I'm smart enough to do something like that, even though I'm like, well, I don't know. You need to have maybe a little bit more reasoning than just proving to yourself you can do something like that. But I did download the MCAT test study app, and so every day I take some random question. Most of the time I have no idea what half the words are, but I love it. It is so fun.
I love that so much for you. That's so awesome.
And I learn just like a tiny little bit every day, and sometimes I guess and I get it right, and it's just like pure luck. But I love that it's learning and it's acting on these thoughts. Like, I took notes on a little sticky note of, like, follow distinct thoughts, especially when they're clear, and, like, things will feel right when we're moving forward to make decisions. So I love that. Any last words on your mind?
I don't know. All I can think is sometimes just doing things to prove you can do them. Kind of fun, but also maybe if you know that in the long run you won't enjoy it, maybe
Yeah,
Maybe don't go.
you have to test the waters, but that's part of it too.
But
like
try
learning new
try
things,
all the
right?
things, and
Yeah.
or like your podcast. I love it. There's so many different kinds of people, and just hearing about different people and their jobs and their life and their experiences is so cool.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in this world that we really just can't actually experience it all, but getting to hear others' experiences is like a way for us to be part of that for a minute, which is so cool.
Oh, I love that. I love ending on that thought. Thank you so much. Shelby, this
Thank
was
you
a
so
pleasure.
much for having me.
You're an amazing nurse. You're an amazing person. And I hope to see you in person soon. We'll make it happen. Well,
yes, I 100% agree.
Well, everyone, have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.